and gentlemen, good night all my friends and family out there. Hope you all guys are safe. Yeah, we are just doing this video, to share our thoughts on, what's going on in the world today. How we see things, and everything you see is not everything you should accept, because for some people seeing is believing, but for others it's having the inclination to discern. And I want to thank the Creator for giving us this opportunity that we could reach out to you all guys and share our knowledge with you all guys, and not only that, get you all guys feedback on what you think of what we're going to discuss this evening. First of all, we are home, as everybody is. We are on lockdown here in Barbados. Basically 24-hour lockdown, only certain services that you could acquire, mostly online. So we are basically making the best of the situation at this point in time. So yeah, let's get into the topic tonight. We are dealing with the world affairs right now and what's going on. Life will not be the same after this, for sure. It might go back to some normalcy, but at the end of the day, we know it's not going to be same as we had known it before. So let's start at the beginning. In December, the outbreak began in December 2019. COVID-19 was the name given to the pandemic, as everyone know. And for us as a third world country, number one, we are very fragile, and number two, we are very dependent on we could say, first world countries or so forth. And as a people, we need, I believe, at no point in time but now, to come together, not only come together as in sharing our food supplies and sharing our thoughts and what's not, but we need to come together mostly as a spiritual entity, because yes, we all are living in a physical world, but we are more than physical. We are more spiritual than physical, and we need to tap into our spiritual side at this point in time more than ever before in our history, in our lives. We have the Christian fraternities out there, and as you can see, they also are on lockdown. So as individuals, we need to take this opportunity to tap into our spiritual being and see where we could highlight and enhance our thoughts, because the universe, as I know it, strives on positive thoughts. When we have panic, when we have frantic energies that we are portraying, the universe feeds on that. So that in returns will help to me basically inflame the situation. But if all of us can come on a frequency, whereas we can have positive thoughts, we can have positive vibes, is a positive energy, whereas now our body will broadcast that energy, and we'll find out that the situation as we will find it might be less there than it is. But we tend to mostly focus as human beings on the physical aspect of things. And if we as a people go back to basically our heritage and knew that our ancestors, with their limited resources, was able to create a society and an economy, might not be as probably financial sound as ours, but it was a sustainable economy, and it was a sustainable environment to which they could have strived. And we as a people in this generation, now more than ever, we have all the basic technologies and all the finest gadgets, and still we are missing the ball. Why are we missing the ball? Because life as I know it doesn't strive on acquiring things. That is a part of it. Yes, it's important, but that was what we was taught while we were going to school. Get a job, get an education, get a job, and buy a house, a car, and that's it. We never was taught to create, to be creators. We never was taught to be innovators. We never was taught to be leaders. We always was educated in a system whereas we were to follow. And there's nothing wrong with following, but it's okay to know who you are following and what you are following. So again, as I said before, we are living in these times where I believe that spirituality will make a difference. Consciousness will make a difference. And a knowing of oneself and the sharing with each other the love that we had lost over the years in trying to acquire all the worldly things that the world have to offer. So in this short period of time that we might be going through this crisis, this pandemic, and everyone is panicking and everyone is, have their own opinion on what might have caused it, and everyone pointing fingers at each other. Just remember, folks, friends, ladies and gentlemen, that you as an individual have the spirituality, has the, I would assume, the know-how based on our ancestral heritage to cope within these times and to share the knowledge that you have with others and enlighten them, because I know for a fact there are a lot of ignorant people in the world that are not as inclined to understand the importance of ancestral heritage, knowing where you come from, knowing, what had transpired in the past based on your history. And we fall down at this time trying to fix things that we don't have a clue how to fix. So when you find that happens, you find a sense of panic, a sense of, unease. And people tend to do irrational things. They don't think properly. Everything seems scrambled. You need to know what our ancestors and what your grandmother and my grandmother and your grandfather and my grandfather laid upon when there were no doctors, there were no hospitals, there were no there wasn't any internet, telephone. People got sick, people got ill. But one thing I know that those folks had and relied upon is a high sense of spirituality and a sense of good hygiene, because we are the architects of the world. We are the people who cook our slave masters' food, we sewed their garments, our maid wives deliver their children. We basically civilize our slave masters by being enslaved. So if you take that based on the knowledge that our ancestors acquired back then and what we have now as a people, we need to come together in a spiritual element, and you will find that as a small people, we are in, as I said again, we are in third world country. We are a population of, say, roughly 300,000 people, and to the world, that's a drop in the bucket based on population ratio and what's not. And over the years, we were mixed, if you want to call it that. We were mixed. We have other denominations here, we have other ethnicities here, and we work together, we live together, and we coexist with one another. And I believe the Creator will please, and he's pleased, and he would like to know that all of us as a people will come together and have that sense of brotherhood, especially in a time like these that's very uncertain. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know if after the 14 days lockdown, if we go to another 14 days. And for some people, their way of life have changed dramatically. For some, it would have been a norm because some folks, when they finish work on evenings, they go straight home to the next day. But then they have some folks now, whereas when they come in on evening, they will go to a bar or go somewhere to take the edge off. And with that not happening, people need to have assurance that there is more to this life and this physical aspect of it than what we are seeing. And we need to tap into that element so that we could actually achieve at this point in time the most important thing I believe anyone can achieve, thanks to knowledge of knowing thyself and having a relationship with the Creator. Because these are last days based on historical facts, records, whatever you might call it. But despite its last days, the Father, the Creator, said He has a chosen people that don't matter what, He'll be there for. And a chosen people might not be a race, a nationality. I think a chosen people, in my opinion, is a people that comes to the realization that there is something greater than themselves, that is the author behind this whole world, the whole actions and activities of the world. And once you come to that realization and ask the Creator to point you into the direction that you need to go, whereas you'll be helping people, trying to make the world a better place, and looking at life from a different perspective than the quote-unquote system had taught us over the years. And it's sad to see that our younger generation basically are falling through the cracks. They're, in my opinion, they're falling through the cracks based on what the system has portrayed as, the basic ideal lifestyle. And it comes down with peer pressure for the kids. It comes down with, anxiety in certain circumstances. So, we as a people need to get back to our ancestral heritage. I don't think going forward, I can't see nothing going forward based on the teachings based academically, because academical teachings now is mostly driven toward finances and acquiring basic amenities of life. But we need to get back to more heritage and more bringing a sound knowledge to the children, to the younger generation, of their ancestral heritage, and to feed on that knowledge that our ancestors know would have taught our forefathers and our grandmother and our great grandfathers and what's not, and see if we could get back. We can't get back there, but see if we could acquire what was broken between the time that we were separated from our culture and now, right? Because we were creators, we were innovators, we were inventors, we were all these things, and now we are actually providing these services for other people, right? And finally, it's been I think it's 4 days now, and yeah, we are 4 days in, and we have 10 more days to go. And I just want to tell you all guys to stay in there. I hope that everything goes well. I ask you to reach out to those who might need help when you could help, assist anybody who might need assistance, because that is part of the Creator's mandate. You know, we must help our fellow man, hard or soft, good or bad. You know, do good to those that despise you, and try to share that energy, because there's an energy need to put in the atmosphere that able thing, because we are not in the open, we are not on the streets, we are not a thing, and that energy that usually come from the human body, or we are more electrical, that energy that comes from the human body is not being manifested in that amount that needed to, you know, thing, because as you know, churches are closed. You're not getting that Sunday energy where the churches or Saturday energies, or Friday midday mass with the Muslims. That energy going up in the atmosphere. All that energy is taken away from the atmosphere. Just now, if everybody, you know, stay put and everybody think it's going to start to play on people's minds, I know it's going to start to play on people's minds, because it's not something that the average person is accustomed to. So when you find that people have to migrate into something new, it tends to, you know, have effect, regardless of the effect. But it will have effect on, you know, certain individuals who are, you know, accustomed to being confined at their residence, or even confined under the same 14-day for quarantine, for isolation, testing, or what's not. So it's going to be a rough days ahead, folks, and I'm asking you all guys to hang in there. You know, follow the rules of the government. You know, make sure that you stay indoors. You know, communicate as best as they can to your friends the best way you can. As we know now, we're in the technological age. You know, via the devices, and we only have to wait it out. So on this note, I want to thank you all guys again, and may the Creator God Almighty be with you all. Thank you.